Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Supergirl, because James Gunn has dropped a bunch of quotes that we need to break down, all to do with Supergirl in the DCU and what to expect in her film and like what he intended to do with Supergirl in the Superman film. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. So most of these quotes are coming from Rolling Stone. They did an interview with James Gunn. It's quite a good conversation. Highly recommend you guys read it. Also, we're going to be reading through an EW article and just one specific quote that is to do with Supergirl. So we're going to be breaking everything down in terms of like the latest news of what has been said to do with Supergirl, just to keep you guys up to date. So make sure you stick around throughout this entire video to get all the information that you need. So the conversation that James Gunn had with Rolling Stone was definitely more of like a spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen Superman, please be sure to click off this video right now, because you're going to get spoiled, because they go into spoilers and it kind of acts as like a conversation between the interviewer and James Gunn. So I'm going to be reading the interviewer's questions or statements and then James Gunn's replies and break it down bit by bit. So this is how it begins. So people who've read the Woman of Tomorrow graphic novel might have reason to be concerned about Krypto in Supergirl. You cut a scene where Ultraman punches Krypto because it upset audiences. If he can't be punched in this movie, how do you have a scarier thing happen to him in a Supergirl movie? So this is what James replies. Remember, this is a different movie than Supergirl, which is entirely true. Supergirl is a way more rock and roll film. It's a little bit rougher in certain ways. She's a tougher character. She's not Superman at all. So it's not the same. This movie really is for everybody, and so is Supergirl, but it's a little bit edgier in some ways than this film. Mind you, I've seen all the dailies, but I haven't seen the cut. I see it next week, I think, so I'm very excited about that. So first things first, let's talk about that. He's going to see the first cut of Supergirl, the film, which is coming out next summer, next week. That's obviously very exciting. They've got all the dailies, they've shot everything for the film. We are supposed to be seeing some sort of footage at Comic-Con in New York sometime in October, so hopefully we get a look at that, and that would absolutely be brilliant leading up to like next summer. So that would be a good point to get a teaser, I guess, especially building off the hype of Superman. And so all the talk to do with Krypto is basically because, and spoiler alert guys, once again, but if you haven't read the comic, this is a spoiler, but Krypto dies. Well, Krypto is attacked in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow in the comic book by Krem, the main villain, and that is basically what kicks off Supergirl's revenge arc that she goes on in that comic. And she basically goes off the rails and she goes very, very dark, and she is basically on the hunt for him and she's willing to just straight up kill him. So Supergirl definitely is a tougher character than Superman, and she has that edge to her. And I'm very happy to hear that James Gunn is saying this is more of a rock and roll film than Superman, because I think that is exactly what Tom King did in that comic book. But the interviewer goes on to say, I think people want to be reassured that there's a good explanation for why Supergirl didn't tell Superman about his parents, since she's presumably more knowledgeable about Krypton. So James replies, you're assuming that everybody on Krypton is the same, and how would she know? She's younger than him, so she wouldn't know. She wouldn't know anything about his parents. So that's true. Like, even if she did grow up with his parents around, like, they're not going to tell her the ins and outs of like what they exactly think and everything. That's not how families work. Like, yes, if you're maybe a closer family, but traditionally they're like not super close on Krypton. I feel like they always did their different things because they were cousins at the end of the day, and they're not like brother and sister or something like that. So they wouldn't know too much about his parents. So I don't get why people are really questioning that so much. Like, it's not really far-fetched to assume that Supergirl didn't know everything about Kal-El's parents. So the interviewer continues by saying, fair enough, did you ever think about a bigger role for her in this film, talking about Supergirl, or was it always as we see it in the final cut? James says, yeah, it was always that. When I took this job, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the graphic novel that inspired 2026's Supergirl film, was like number one for me of the things I knew I wanted to do. Ana Nogueira just killed the script right away and saw what I saw in how the comic could be adapted to film, where Supergirl is even rougher in the film than she is in the comic, I think. So that's an interesting tidbit right there, like that In the film, she's actually going to be tougher and darker than she is in the comic book, and let me tell you guys, if you've not read it, she goes dark. Like, just look at some of the images online, type in Supergirl Woman Tomorrow, and you'll see that she's got like blood all over her and she's using swords. It's been referred to as kind of like a space Game of Thrones almost, just because of the amount of swords she uses and how brutal it can get. But Supergirl's role in Superman was always intended to be a cameo to set up Supergirl, and if I'm being completely honest guys, like, I love that cameo. I think it's the perfect cameo. It perfectly ends Superman and it gives you a little teaser for what's coming next, and I feel like everyone is now excited to see Millie Alcock's version of Supergirl even more than before, because now we've seen a look at her and she is great in her own right. She is definitely a very different type of House of L member, and she's going to start with the film pretty much like you saw the end of Superman, but things are going to change very fast for her in the film, and as James has teased, she's going to get even rougher in this film than she does in the comics, which is just crazy to imagine. And the interview continues by saying this, and obviously Krypto is her companion in that graphic novel, even though he's still Superman's dog in the comic book. I presume that's where you got the idea to make Krypto Supergirl's dog in Superman. So obviously that was the twist that we found out kind of like midway through the film when Clark is talking to Lois and there's that dimensional imp in the background. That's the moment that we realized, oh, it's actually not his dog. It's kind of like a foster situation. He's looking after Krypto while Supergirl is off planet celebrating her, let's say, 21st birthday like she does in the comics, and she's getting drunk under red suns and everything, and she's partying. So that's what she's out there doing, and Superman just is nice and has taken in Krypto. So James replies, oh yeah, that's right, that's how that came about, yeah. So a short answer, but basically, yeah, he got a lot of his inspiration from that Supergirl comic book, and it clearly is a comic that made a big impression on James. And I definitely have full confidence in what they're doing with the Supergirl film, because yeah, I'm totally into this and I love what I saw from Millie Alcock in the short moments she had in Superman. So let's move on to the Entertainment Weekly article, and this is another interview with James Gunn as he talks about Superman, Ultraman, a bit of Supergirl, and we're going to be breaking down the Supergirl part. So the question goes like this: one of my personal favourite cameos was Supergirl because, to your point, it was short and sweet, but at the same time, you used that time so wisely to give us a perfect encapsulation of who Kara is in the DCU. So James replies, but for me, the main reason for Kara showing up is to show that Superman not only risked his life to go save a dog that was his dog, that so many of us would do, he was watching the dog for somebody else. The dog's a pain in his ass. He didn't want to take that dog. She's off being irresponsible. He doesn't want to have to watch the dog. He's having to save the world every 2 seconds, and even still he goes to the ends of the earth for that dog. So that says a lot, and to me that's one of the most touching things in the movie. Earlier when Lois says it's just a dog and he says yeah, not even a very good one, but it's probably scared. It just shows you the depths of his empathy. I find that so touching. Then when you find out at the end it's not even his dog, she just left him with it, it obviously makes for a great moment. And I completely agree with James, like, it is truly one of the most touching things that he cares so much for Krypto, despite how much of a nuisance Krypto is. And obviously Krypto is charming, but he is a pain in the ass, and Superman has to deal with that, but he's willing to hand himself in and literally go to another dimension to find that dog that isn't even his dog. Like, you can imagine like doing that for your own dog, but for someone else's dog, why should you care? Like Lois puts, it's just a dog. But to Superman, who obviously has great empathy for pretty much every living being, as you saw throughout the film, with the squirrel, with the people, it doesn't matter who they are or what type of animal it is, like when it's life, Superman's going to protect it. And so he obviously cares a lot about Krypto, but definitely the twist of it being Supergirl's dog was a great one, because you can really see the energy that Krypto is giving like throughout the film. It's pretty much Supergirl right at the end of the film. Like, it makes sense. You're like, ah, right, I get it. Like, even Superman himself points it out. And so yeah, I think they did a really good job at just encapsulating what Kara is like in this universe and what Supergirl is like and how she's going to start her own film. And it's just like the perfect teaser for what's to come. So really looking forward to all of this. Obviously we'll have more DC videos in the next couple of days. please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.